So here we are. We are anchored in Hurricane Hole in Biscayne Bay. This is day 35 of our self-imposed quarantining. We left Suntex Marina on March the 14th with the intention of being self-quarantined for 7 days, just waiting to see what happens with the craziness that was evolving and the uncertainty that was evolving and conspiracy theories and things that just confused us. So we untied from Suntex Marina. We headed about 30 miles south to Key Largo and dropped anchor right there.
Yeah.
So one of the joys of living on a catamaran, a Lagoon 450 Sport Top, is the fact that we do not want for anything that we have on our land home. So this really does become as much of a home as we have anywhere else. Our catamaran is fully equipped with refrigeration, with the ability to make water, with the ability to generate its own power via a diesel generator or solar panels that sit on the back of the boat. So we are, for all intents and purposes, as autonomous as you possibly can be. So we have two 136-gallon diesel tanks that sit in each hull. Catamaran is 2 hulls, and they actually sit underneath the rear stateroom beds.
You were worried about spending any kind of fuel while we were cruising, so you added a bunch of solar, right?
That's correct. So on a vessel like this Lagoon, one of the biggest draws is going to be the power that you need to drive refrigeration. We have 2 refrigerators to drive, 2 freezers to drive the lights that you see on and the fans you hear in the background. And when we're sailing, there are instruments that draw a lot of current as well. So the ability to regenerate the power you draw from the batteries is a critical piece of being autonomous. Generally, on a boat like this, we use a generator, which is running in the background now. It's a 13.5 kilowatt diesel generator running off the same tanks that feed the engines, and we'll use that to charge the batteries up, but it's a rather inefficient way of doing it. And in a place like Florida, where we have lots of sunshine, why not harness one of the elements that we have for free? So we installed a solar around the back of the boat. It sits across the back, you'll see that later on. And it has a total of 1,500 watts of solar capacity. And translating that into real life terms, what does that mean? Well, on an average day, when our batteries are depleted down to about 83%, we can be at 100% full capacity in our batteries between 1 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And from that point forward, then you have excess power capabilities. So we have the ability to do things like running water makers and other bits and pieces around, maybe inverting from the batteries to charge up laptops and other bits and pieces from the boat.
And I think that's the other really important tool that we have here is the ability to make fresh water out of salt water, right?
Correct. Our water maker. A water maker is probably the second most important system that we have on the boat. Generating electricity is the first. Our water maker is manufactured by a French company called Desalator. It runs off both 110 and 12 volts DC, so 110 volt AC, 12 volts DC. And it has the ability to produce 100 liters of water per hour, which is just about 30 gallons per hour. And one of the other nice luxuries that we have is the ability of not being rationed by a limited supply of water. We will make water probably every second day, but it gives us the ability to shower, wash our clothes, wash our dishes, basically not be limited by our water capacity. Yeah, so as complex as these ecosystems are, they require a lot of attention, and they do break. And being self-sufficient is part of what we learn to do when we cruise around the South Pacific, and that's a skill set you bring with you through life. No matter if you're on your own catamaran, or if you're living up in the mountains in a house, or if you're camping out in a state park, those skill sets travel with you. And we spent a fair amount of time working in everybody else's boat, each other's boat. On Khaleesi, for example, we had an issue with our main halyard. and had a couple of people come over in the afternoon and help us sort that out. We took care of engine issues, water maker issues, and several other things. So as a community, there's a lot of autonomy and various skill sets that complement each other. And that in particular was a pleasant surprise to see how everybody,
tools, sharing parts, all of it, right?
and that sense of community.
Yeah.
We thought it would be nice to ask each other what were our biggest challenges and what were our biggest surprises in these 35 days of self-quarantining. So, Dina, what was your biggest challenge?
I don't know if I can break it up in terms of, well, maybe the challenge was my own head. Cruising for me, you know, we've done it now for years, and cruising has always represented a bit of freedom for us. You know, just you look at your bills less, you look at a lot of things, you know, just kind of the obligations of life, and you get to experience so much more in terms of, you know, just when the dolphins show up or when the sunset's setting, you just appreciate nature and just all of that. But it's so freeing for me whenever we are cruising. And this time, it was almost completely opposite. It felt so much more like an imposition. It was so much more,
Captain?
yeah, captive. Like I felt a bit like the boat was holding me hostage, instead of how I should have been feeling and how I feel now that I've gone through it, that it was, you know, such a savior for us in so many ways and such a respite. But for me, for a while, for many days, I was getting really, really negative and against the boat, against you, against everything, until I realized what I was really suffering from, which I'm sure was what everyone in the world was suffering from, was just being angry at the virus and what the virus was doing to us. And now I'm glad, you know, I needed you to help me through that, and you did, and so, you know, 4 or 5 days, or maybe only 3 or 4 days, but at least this latter part of this time, I've been able to see it for what it is and to just truly enjoy this really crazy good place that we get to do what everyone else is doing too. But it's been good. But I was really surprised at my emotions through the whole thing. How about you, Ter? Can you break it into a challenge or a surprise, or is it both?
No, I can break it into two. So, thinking back on the last 35 days, I think my biggest challenge was how we, as cruisers in South Florida, were viewed by people in very nice communities like we are right here as almost being outsiders, dangerous, and really unwanted. And it's not as though I've ever felt the need to want to force myself to belong, but it was very evident in our anchorage off Key Largo. We were not welcome. We were not welcome for a number of reasons, but I think the biggest reason was just the level of uncertainty that surrounded the whole country. Everything, every aspect. People looking at you on a sailboat wondering, well, are you carrying the virus? Are you the ones bringing it into our community? And on the flip side, we're the ones that are self-quarantining, and we were the ones afraid to go to shore because we were being extra careful. So that was a big challenge. But then again, having gone through that, I understand why. As far as a surprise goes, two things were surprising to me. Having cruised extensively on a monohull across the Pacific and knowing how well-founded that vessel was, it was hard to imagine there was something else out there that was as functional, if not more. And so, living on our catamaran for 35 days, I'm pleasantly surprised how well this vessel has been built, thought out, and how it functions as a holistic environment for us to be in. We really have not wanted for anything. I have not found,
It's the second time that's happened.
as far as surprises, I think one of the biggest surprises, pleasant surprises I had was how functional our catamaran is as an environment to live in and to thrive in. We had sailed extensively on a monohull around the South Pacific, and it was hard for me to imagine a vessel that might be as good, if not better, in terms of livability and comfort. And our Lagoon 450 is exactly that. It's a wonderful platform to live on. It's a mature platform. It's been well thought out. The systems work perfectly in harmony with the whole environment. And we had no issues on this boat whatsoever. My second surprise is how well this vessel sails. And I know some of you out there that sailed with us from Key Largo back up to Miami will be smiling. But this is for a boat that weighs 33,000 pounds, that's 46 feet long and 26 feet wide, just under 26 feet wide, it's surprisingly nimble. So those are my two surprises.
I have one more surprise. Out of 35 days, this is the first day that we've seen a drop of rain. How nice. How nice.
Khaleesi's getting washed today for the first time.